Okay, I think we're live. Welcome to Tamarah's Closet today. I've got a really wonderful guest today, and he's actually here with me live from Reading, England. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And he is a fabulous musician and he's a bit of a mysterious songwriter with his kind of dark lyrics resembling the ambiance of the old Hollywood's film noir area of the 50s. And he's such a down to earth kind of guy, and he's just got a great personality. And I actually had the pleasure of meeting him a couple weeks ago on Skype, and we had a really nice conversation. And he's just a really great guy. He's a family guy, and he's really passionate about music. And he's had a very exciting and very well-traveled life. And his passion for music is just constantly evolving and forever changing, with his passion and his courage to explore new sounds and developing new styles and experimenting with new venues with his band. And he's on a wonderful journey that I'm going to let him be talking about later today. So the Midnight Rambler is the name of the band, and it's kind of an alternative rock band, a little blues, jazz genre. And so without further delay, I want to introduce to you today the lead vocals for the Midnight Rambler, Mike Lemin. Mike, are you still with me?
Hello, yes, we are here in Reading. We are live coming to you.
It is Reading. I knew I pronounced it wrong. So.
Oh, that's fine. It happens all the time.
That's okay. Well, Mike, I'm going to jump right in because I know we've got limited amount of time here, but it sounds like, just from everything I've read about you, that you've been all over the world. And, I know you were born in England, and yet you were raised in Sharjah, and then you lived in Hong Kong. And I mean, you've been everywhere. You've traveled all over the world, and yet you still have a passion for traveling today. It's not like it's burnt you out or anything, but you reside in Reading. So I just want to know, I know that one of the reasons that you traveled a lot was due to your father's work in telecommunications. And I had read that you just really enjoyed that time in your life. What was it about all that traveling that you loved? And do you think that any of that traveling you did growing up influenced your style of music in any way, as well as the lyrics?
Yes, I would say definitely. I mean, I suppose every musician is a product of all of their influences, and they can probably give you a map of a few things. But I suppose having traveled and lived all over the world, it's a bit more of a complicated map sometimes. And I mean, from the get-go, yeah, I was very lucky and very, I think, privileged to have had any travel of the scope that me and my family did. I mean, yeah, we grew up in, well, my early childhood was in a place called Sharjah, which is a part of Dubai, or just next to Dubai, I suppose, in the United Arab Emirates. And that was a completely different world to England. And yeah, another different world was Hong Kong, growing up in Hong Kong. And that was sort of, the beginning of the 80s. So we had all that lovely 80s music, all the classic 80s tracks that you know and love. So that was one soundtrack going on all the time. So, you had Michael Jackson, you had Duran Duran. And at the same time, we had a lot of influence from America in Hong Kong. So it was a lot of the stuff that was big in America was big in Hong Kong, because that's the kind of media that was championed out there. But then I found that when I came back to England, my childhood, I suppose, was a sort of cross between a load of different places and a load of different influences that I didn't share with people over here. So, something that I would think was, everyone knew, like My Sharona by the Knack.
Yeah.
I thought that was universal. And you know, I was just singing it, and everyone was like, "Eh, what's that?" I was like, "Really? You don't know my Sharona? Come on, you know." I thought that, you know, I thought that I was speaking a universal language, but no, you know, over here it was Wham and George Michael, and you know, I was like, okay, slightly different, but the same. You know? And I mean, another part of it was being half, because essentially my background is half English, half Peruvian. My mum was from Peru, from a town called Huancavelica, which is near Huancayo, which is in the mountains south, well, east of Lima by many miles. And my dad is from Cornwall, which is kind of the west coast, bottom tip of England, for those that don't know. And it's a very unlikely pairing from that generation. And even today, I don't meet many half South American, half English people in general. So
yeah, how did they meet? How did they?
Well, I mean, you mentioned earlier my dad's job. He worked for a company called Cable and Wireless, and he was helping set up what they call Earth stations, so the stations that talk to the satellites, and that was a boom business in the 70s. You know, there were satellites going up all the time for all sorts of things, and I mean, there still are now, but back then it was just, you know, a bigger deal, I suppose, because it was a lot newer. So it was a lot more people intensive as well. You had to send people out to a lot of places around the world. So he was in everywhere from like Singapore, Sierra Leone. He caught malaria there. He lived, obviously. Wow. Ended up in Peru and met my fabulous mother. Yeah.
Wow. But so rather than him being gone all the time, you just all traveled with him. Is that?
I suppose that's another real different thing, which, I mean, these days, I suppose travel's quite easy, but back then, I suppose it was a lot more uncommon for a whole family to uproot and travel around the world in that manner. Certainly at the very beginning, there were times when, you know, Dad was away for long trips, and certainly if he was going to be gone for less than a year, then there was no point in taking the whole family. But yeah, when he was posted for a few years, then yeah, we all got to go, and I thought it was a fabulous adventure. But I'm sure, you know, that there were probably times when it was probably quite stressful for the family, and I was just probably along for the ride, going, wow.
That's right. Well, what do you remember? What was your earliest experience, would you say, with music? Like, how old were you when you realized that you had this really strong passion for music?
I was probably about 7 or 8, and my family were, mum and dad were really encouraging of me to do any sort of music. So I think I had a go on things like the trumpet and the violin, much to, you know, my long-suffering family probably like, yeah, he'll get better. Making the usual strangled cat sounds that you know you do. And it was a piano. I really loved playing the piano. I couldn't play it very well, but I loved the sound of it. And then we had a family friend, my sister Elsa actually eventually married this guy. He was a timpanist for the Hong Kong Philharmonic Orchestra, and he gave me some drum lessons. And then I was hooked on the drums. That was it. I was a drummer.
Wow. But you learned, you first started with the piano though? Was that your first?
I think they probably came hand in hand. I was probably noodling on the piano, but the thing I put real time in was probably the drums, because that's what I mean, I remember being in school orchestra as the drummer, and then when back in England I became, you know, in my first bands I was always the drummer, and I remember I used to spend 4-5 hours a day drumming if I could, you know, hours at a time, just playing everything. So I'd actually put on a big pair of headphones from a stereo and hook it up, and then just play everything that I could get my hands on, just play along to it. And bless my parents for putting up with that as well.
What now, were either of your parents musicians at all, or did they sing? Were they singers, or where do you think you got that from?
I think it does run in the family. Both my parents like to sing. They're always singing. They were never in bands or anything like that, but my mum was very much always singing and dancing, and it's part of South American culture in a way. I mean, you just do it, you know. Someone starts singing and you sing along, and then you start dancing with them as well. It's a very Latino thing. But my uncle sings in choirs. Both my uncles sing in choirs, actually. And they're very, very good, very, very good. My uncle Roger was in a male voice, the Mevagizi male voice choir, which is, Mevagizi is a place in Cornwall, and he went around the world a few times with that choir, so he was pretty good. And my uncle Andy is singing in choirs currently around Reading in the south, and he's very good as well. Wow. So I guess it does run a bit in the family. Oh, my sister loves to sing and play guitar as well. Yeah, she's very good.
Well, did either of your parents, when they heard you when you would sing or whatever, did anyone pick up on that you had a nice voice and point that out to you, or you just?
I think yes, but coming from such a positive family, I guess I just thought it was them being nurturing. Nice. Yeah, you know, I think most parents are like that. They're like, oh, yeah, keep going. I don't think they were ever they never said I had to do any one thing, if you know what I mean. They just wanted me to keep going and keep having fun with it. And then they kind of left me to my own devices as to which place I wanted it to go. Though I suppose if my mum could have her way, I would have been first violin in an orchestra somewhere. But
wow.
That wasn't going to happen. I was taken by the rock and roll at 16, and it was fatal.
Did you like classical music at all, or?
Oh, I do. I to this day I love it. I'm a fan of things like Mozart, Beethoven, Ravel, very much Ravel and Debussy. But I don't know much about it other than I've listened to a lot of the stuff that everyone listens to. You know,
yeah.
I guess what they call the classics, and I'm fascinated by it. I probably don't listen to it enough to stretch my musical knowledge, but it's amazing. It's amazing if you have the time to listen to it and really get into it. You think, I can't believe Mozart's brain, you know, at such a young age. I mean, he wrote his first symphony at 6 or something like that.
Yeah,
amazing.
That is amazing. I love classical music too, but I kind of go in spells. I went through a period where that was something that I listened to a lot in my car. So it's just, you know, I like a little bit of every genre of music. But I wanted to go back to, you were talking about being a drummer, and I know that you were a drummer in high school, and you went to the University of, I believe it's Bedfordshire.
Yes.
But tell me a little bit about that. But you know, instead of a music degree, you studied psychology, which kind of threw me off. And your thesis was on schizotypal cognition and lucid dreaming. What was your I mean, you wanted to be a drummer. You were a drummer, but you had this fascination for this, you know, to study this. What led you to this decision and incorporating, because you actually incorporated it in this lucid-like dream effect into your lyrics, and
yes, I mean, I suppose I'll go back to why I chose psychology to start with.
Yeah.
So I'm coming up to the end of high school, and I'm thinking, I'm going to do music. I'm definitely going to do music. So I go and do some musical auditions at some universities, and all I saw was room upon room of people playing the same thing again and again and again, and they were all studying classical. And if I was going to do a music degree, the most popular ones were classical style degrees, classic music degrees. And that's not really where my heart was at the time. I just started playing the guitar at that point. Literally, I just got my first acoustic, and I starting to fall in love with the acoustic guitar. And I was, you know, as soon as I sort of started playing that, I was thinking I could start singing and playing on this thing. And that's really where my heart was going. And at the same time, I'd always been interested in psychology. So I came to a crossroads, and it was like, well, music is part of what I do anyway, and I think I'll just develop it in one way or another. But what do I want to actually sit down and study right now and really look at? And it was people. I mean, in a weird way, I think of psychology as very elaborate people watching. You know, the same things that we do when we're at a coffee shop looking out, and you know, we look at people walking by and we're thinking, what's their life about? What's going through their mind right now? What's going on with them? Why are they doing that? Or you know, when we look at our own actions or our own lives, and you think, why did I do that? Why am I thinking this right now? What's going on? Yeah, and I'd always been fascinated in altered states of consciousness and dreaming. I find them fascinating. I'm still, to this day, I don't really know what they're about or why. I mean, there are biological reasons why we dream, and there are also psychological answers for why we dream, and I think there's also spiritual answers for why we dream. And I'm kind of interested in all the different camps and all the different answers. And I think that probably is a theme that runs through a lot of how I look at things. I kind of like to observe a lot and then reinterpret a little bit. And that, again, my thesis was, you nearly had it right, actually. It's called schizotypal, I can't remember, what was it? Schizotypal
cognition.
Cognition, that's it. And lucid dreaming, which basically was a lucid dream is a dream that you know you're dreaming, and you could potentially take control of the dream.
Right.
And they're therapeutically valuable or very spiritually valuable, and they go back, you know, hundreds of years in sort of Buddhist Tibetan theology, and also sort of Amazonian shamanic ideas that, you know, we can control this dream life that we have, and it's just as important as our waking lives, to the extent that maybe we should ask, are our dreams the reality, and are we walking around in some elaborate dream? That's a whole other you know, deep conversation to be had late at night on a campfire. But my thesis was the idea was, if we could interview enough people and we could put them through some questionnaires, how would they rate on essentially what the medical profession would say, how schizophrenic are you? So if you are more on this long continuum between what we call, no, I'd hate to say normal. Normal's not a good word for it, but if there was a continuum on which we could put points of how much of a tendency we had to schizophrenic thinking, how good is your grasp on reality? Do we have less of a grasp on reality if we are able to dream lucidly, or if we put more stock in our dreams? So it's kind of like this seesaw effect. I just wanted to explore that, and didn't come out with any great answers to the meaning of life or anything, but it was interesting.
No, but that's why I wanted to bring it up. No, I found it fascinating that you did your thesis on that, because I don't remember if it was in college or if it was when I was still in high school. I remember doing a paper and studying dreams, and because that was always a fascination of mine. I didn't even really know why. And I read a lot of books on human psychology, and so I have that same passion for you. I think the human mind is fascinating, and I'm reading a great book, you know, again, revisiting it on the subconscious mind, the power of the subconscious mind. And so I know that you had used a bit of that as far as incorporated this lucid lucid like dream effect into some of your lyrics. And so and I know that that kind of became a trademark, am I correct, with the Midnight Rambler style, or this metaphysical lucid dreams and wordplays?
Yeah, I suppose it's become, it's definitely had an influence on me. And the way I write lyrics is I keep writing them until I think there's something there that is interesting to hear, but it also might have more than one interpretation. So it makes it, it gives the song, I think, a bit more longevity in that if I was listening to something again, I could go, oh, did he mean this, or did he mean this? Is this a song about a person, or is this a song about himself, or is this a song just about a feeling? And sometimes leaving things just a little bit ambiguous lets people have their own interpretations. I think that's all the songs that I love. I mean, some of them are pretty straightforward. There's something like Twist and Shout, you know what it's about. But other songs where they're a bit more cerebral, and they kind of get you a bit more, and you go back to them and you think, is he? Maybe there's a bit of identification with that person as well when they're going through a soul-searching moment, and you can kind of identify that as well.
Yeah, well, I know I like that, because I there are songs, I can't name one off the top of my head, but there are a lot of songs that I've listened to, and then I'll listen to them again, and I'll question the meaning of the song, because you can come up with two different meanings. But I think there's even the motion of love has its joy, but it also has a very dark side to it. And that was what I know that your song Shockwave was kind of compared to that era in Hollywood with the film noir, which is that dark, they're always in black and white. I was trying to think of one of the movies that came to mind that I saw, but it was much later. It was that Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. They kind of filmed it in that sort of, I don't know if you remember that movie or not, with Steve Martin. It was kind of a spoof on those types of movies, but so when I was watching the video of your Shockwave video, it's a lot like that. And
I do remember that movie, and I do see where you're going with the film noir influences. Certainly, that's part of it. I don't think I was consciously channeling that, but it's interesting that that's what you've gotten out of it, which is amazing, really, because that's another interpretation. I've had quite a few people actually give me interpretations, and I've reinterpreted that song a few times. I think originally I thought of it as a metaphor of just one person talking to another person in a way that they'd never met, but they were hoping to connect to.
Yeah.
And another way to interpret it was just someone just really lonely, putting something out there, being just putting like a message in a bottle and just throwing it out and seeing what came back. And I've actually had quite a few emails over the years of people's reactions. I've had some angry reactions as well.
Really?
Can you believe that? Yeah, I actually had. There was a line in the song. What's it called? I can't remember my own lyrics. There is a line in the song about. I think it's in the second verse about something about religion or God, and I think I meant it as a search for God or a search for connection, and they took it to mean that I was against God or the idea of there being a God, and I was like, wow, where are you getting this? And they were really quite adamant that I should take my song down and I shouldn't spread this idea. And I was like, it's just a song, you know. What you get out of it is, I'm glad they got such a reaction out of it at all, and that we were talking. But I was thinking, where are you getting this from?
Well, that's true. It's amazing. Well, people interpret lyrics to songs, and just two people can read the same something inspirational and get two totally different ideas. And I think it has a lot to do with where a person is in their life and which it channels the perspective that they actually view something. So, I mean, I'm sure it's been viewed a lot, but I think it's a great song. I really enjoyed it. But I like your voice, so it's, to me, that album is great. But I wanted, when you were younger and you first started out as a musician, would you say, was someone that you were mentoring with during that time, or just someone that you greatly admired in the music industry that might have had some influence on your music?
I think I've had many people influence me over the years, both people I know and musicians that I admire. I mean, like you, I mean, I listen to a lot of different styles of music, so at any one time I could be influenced by a whole host of different people. Of people I know, I'd have to say that one of the people that sticks out is probably a good friend called Alan Penford, who was always so many light years ahead of me musically in terms of technique, that he always made me work so hard when I was playing with him. He was like a really hard taskmaster. He was like, nope. Literally, it got, you know, it was hard, you know. He was because he's one of those annoying people who would literally take any instrument, but mainly the bass or guitar. His main instruments are bass, and just go, you do it like that, Mike. I was like, okay, give me a week and I'll come back to you.
Right.
You know, so he's someone like that. And then another good friend, I'd say Barney Watson, has a really good ear for arrangement, really good. So he helped me, especially with this album, actually, he helped me really reinterpret some of the arrangements and turn them more into, I guess, neater arrangements. I think some of the stuff I had, because I just like the sound of it, was like 6 or 7 minutes long and didn't really need to be. So he helped me cut the fat, as it were. Right. And it's always a good exercise with him. And I do like working with him. But there's so many musicians out there that are amazing that I look up to for either their just work rate or just their style of playing music. I guess if I had to pick some out of that, I'm listening to Gary Clark Jr., the blues guy, and Derek Trucks, probably the Allman Brothers, but now he's playing with the Tedeschi Trucks band with his wife Susan Tedeschi. I can't remember how you pronounce it, but I saw them a few years ago in concert, and to this day they're probably one of the best bands I've ever seen. So
wow, yeah. So you've had influences, and now when you go to sit down and write lyrics of a song, when an idea comes to you, or whether it's, I don't know if the lyrics come to you first or the melody, do you typically, is the guitar your go-to instrument? Because I know a lot.
Yes, I mean, I'd say yes and no. Sometimes I just write things in my head, and that's becoming something I've been able to do in the last year or so. I'm starting to be able to get to a point where I can literally hear it in my head a little bit more, and then try it out on the guitar or the piano. I'm writing a few more things on the piano for the next album. And lyrics, just sometimes you get inspired by a situation or a feeling or an idea, and then you just run with it, and then you write it down. And I find that I just have to write it down, let it cook, come back to it, add some herbs, come back to it, let it simmer. There are very few times when I've written a song from A to B straight off the bat. I usually have to visit X, Y, and Z in the process, and then really whittle things down again. So yeah, because I guess I like to know that I've tried to explore as much wordplay or get as much as I can out of this song, if it's going to be a song. Sometimes I write stuff and I think, yeah, this is amazing, and then I listen to it a few times and it just doesn't have the ability to keep, you know, my attention. And if I can't dig it, I don't want to give it to anyone else, you know.
Well, but before we started the show today, you were actually had your guitar, and you were talking about how sometimes you just spontaneously write something and jump on the guitar, and so that's more in play. You don't do that.
Yeah, yeah, I do that. I do that as well. I don't think I have a set method. I just, whenever it happens, I mean, so yeah, let's take the guitar, and whatever happens, it might end up as a song, or it might not end up as a song. But I mean, I don't know. So let's do a song for you. Let's do a song for Tamarah.
Okay.
So do you want a happy song or a melancholy-ish sort of song?
I like happy. Well, you don't know. I want you to be spontaneous.
Okay. Tamarah, you're in the closet, but you don't have to be. Why don't you profess your dying love? Come back out of the closet, my beautiful girl. Come out and profess your love to me. I was feeling a little bit of Johnny Cash there, actually. A bit of an ah-ha-ha Elvis ending.
I like that.
So that's the sort of silliness that ends up happening at gigs sometimes as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, but I like that. That's fun.
Cool.
That's great. Well, would you say that your lyrics still today, are you moving away from that little bit of the dark or melancholy that I talked about, or are you just continually evolving? Because you mentioned, actually, I'm trying to remember if it was in an email, but you were mentioning a trilogy of videos that you and the band are working on for the future.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that about?
So to answer the first bit of that, I don't think I don't think I'll ever move away from the sort of melancholy side of things, because it, like you said earlier, it goes hand in hand. So sometimes life's fantastic, and sometimes it's stressful, and sometimes there are dark times. And in the same way that I sometimes don't wait to decide what I'm going to write about, sometimes they write themselves. So there are sometimes memories that just still need honoring in a way, that you want to write about as well, or other people, you know. So I mean, I've got a couple of dark tunes probably for the next album already, that I've just been brewing around for a while. And it's not that I'm necessarily living in that moment. I don't think you have to live in that moment all the time to recognize that something has value.
Right.
So in the same way that if I was inspired to paint a picture and it was of a very violent scene or a very dark scene, and that still happened. It still has value because it was a moment in time. And then I can look at it later and admire it. I don't have to live in it. I don't have to live in that moment of creation. I can visit it. And so sometimes we live vicariously that way. That's why you can put on, I don't know, some metal and go, yeah, you know, I am a triumphant Viking, or whatever. But you know, that feeling doesn't mean you are gonna ravage the hills. So, but yeah, but what was the second part?
Well, you mentioned a trilogy of videos.
Oh, the trilogy of videos. Yeah. Yeah, well, we've for a while now we wanted to have either some live videos or some sort of narrative videos to just have fun with the music and showcase the music in some way. But also that was the original intention. But the more we started planning videos, the more we started getting excited by actually having a sort of narrative and having a video that we would actually think was quite fun to show people. So we've we've shot one already, which is loosely based around the idea of these two people meeting, and the lead actor is madly in love with the lady, but she's a bit ambiguous to it all, and there's a bit of a story going on, and the band play on in the background kind of thing. So that's one. That's kind of a fairly tame piece. The other two are well, one is set in sort of outer space, and the other one is a sort of send up of a sort of zombie movie. So this is not just a cheeky stage prop, which I have worn on stage, but and which we're probably going to we use these again. So we'd like to get dressed up for some shows, but this is also going to appear in the video soon. So we're it's kind of a cross between Back to the Future and Alien, I would say.
With, let me see your coat.
This is actually a NASA jumpsuit.
It is a jumpsuit. Okay.
This blue goes all the way down, other than the TMR T-shirt, which yeah is one of our other props, I guess. This is one of the space helmets that we'll be fashioning to use on. I don't know if you can see it light up, but
oh yeah. Okay. So now I see. I've seen that on your website, and I was wondering what that was. And so, and I also saw you had posted there's a picture I saw of you on social media where you look like you're in a spaceship, or you're floating, or
yeah.
It looks like that. So is that part of this trilogy of videos?
Yeah, so the one that we're working on, the next one, which is the zombie one, which is kind of a zombie love story. So it's based on the idea that boy meets zombie girl, and zombie girl is very much in love with the idea of eating zombie human boy, and so they've got a bit of a mismatch there. So that's a cute little love story to unfold. And the space one is, do you remember the beginning of Back to the Future, where Michael J. Fox turns up at Doc Brown's house and plugs in the guitar to that incredibly huge wall of amps?
Yeah.
He strums the guitar and then flies backwards. That's kind of how we want to go, but except instead of anything else, we want that effect to be so cacophonous that it actually rips a hole in the space-time continuum and throws the band through to another alternate reality where they have to play music in front of the alien horde, something like that. It's all a bit ambitious, so we're trying to do this on a shoestring budget. So yeah, it's probably gonna. Have you ever seen that film Be Kind, Rewind, with Jack Black and Mos Def, I think?
No.
Where they have to. Oh well, basically it's just a bunch of guys running around reshooting old classic movies with toilet paper holders for effects. So we're probably going to end up on the same sort of budget. So it's going to be challenging, to say the least.
Well, it sounds fun, and it sounds like you guys are very creative. And have you already got a lot of the lyrics together for these, or is that still in the beginning process as well? Because you've got the idea.
Well, I think we're probably gonna use the song "Kill It Dead" for the Alien one, but maybe not just "Kill It Dead." There might be other bits that we add on that will be new, and then the zombie one will have a different song that no one's heard before. So and the other one, the dance one, is the video for Inside Out, which is on the album as well.
Okay, well, I think that sounds like, I love your creative ideas, and I think that's, and I like your sense of humor, adding the humor in there with the things that the dark side, and then the humor, and then the science fiction kind of. I mean, I think it's just really cool. You're very creative, Mike, and I think that's gonna. You're definitely branding yourself into. To me it's fun, and it's playful, and yet it still has, you've got meaning there, you're going somewhere with it. So I think that's pretty fascinating. And I have to ask you about your fascination with New York, because I also read that somewhere, that you were, in fact, it was part of the reasoning behind the name of the Midnight Rambler, was the combination of that and the Rolling Stones song. So in the movie The Midnight Cowboy, is that right? What was it about New York that got you going with the Midnight Rambler?
It was a few things. I mean, the name The Midnight Rambler came from all these sort of influences coming at once. So there was the Midnight Cowboy movie, which I think is really, it's amazing. Dustin Hoffman in that is just he's amazing. And the song The Midnight Rambler, I've been a massive Stones fan, and that's one of the songs I really like. Well, I wouldn't say I was a massive Stones fan, actually. I really like the early stuff, which I'm a big fan of. I'm not so sure I really followed it after, a lot of the, I guess, I don't think I followed them through the 80s or the 80s period on onwards from that. But the early stuff from the 70s, I think is fantastic. And I also got given my nickname was the Midnight Rambler from people. Actually, I was living with Alan at the time, and he gave me that nickname because I would sometimes just go out at midnight. So I became the Midnight Rambler, and so it became a bit of a joke. But then I was looking for a band name, and so it all came together at once. But New York's an amazing place, and every time I've been there, I've just found something else about it that I didn't know existed before. So you can always go there and just be surprised and be impressed or shocked or saddened, or because I was there in about 2008, about 2009, 2010, and 2011, and I remember sometimes I was just I went to the comedy clubs. There was a lot of amazing comedians. They give off such an amazing energy when you see live comedy, and it's, I love that energy, especially. And or you could go somewhere else to see. I went to a very small theater. Literally, maybe it had 100 people in the whole place, and they did it was a drama, but it was at the backdrop of the Holocaust, of the Jewish Holocaust after the Second World War, and they were able to combine amazing pieces of drama and humor, and then such feelings of devastating loss, and that you came out of that shell shocked and staggering out of there, because it was such a heavy piece of subject matter that they were able to take your emotions this way and that way. And I remember at the same time walking through where the Twin Towers used to be, and to this day you can't walk through there without as soon as you walk to that new tube station or the underground station, everyone starts talking quieter, and everyone, there's a silence still around there that's very heavy. So there's just so much going on there. You've got music, arts, drama. It's just constantly. It can be too much. I mean, I after a few days, I was intoxicated to the extent where I think I need a break. So it's good to get out to places like Philadelphia and New Jersey and Pennsylvania, where where I have friends. So yeah, it definitely always an adventure when I was there.
Oh yeah. Well, no, that's great. I like the name Midnight Rambler. It does have a story behind it, and I do understand your fascination with New York and the influence of that. It is, New York is exciting. It's fashion. It's arts. It's electric, and then it does have its very dark side. So it is. It's a little bit of everything. So I can understand your fascination with that. But what do you consider though your I wanted you to actually I just want you to back up because I don't want to run out of time here. I want you to tell the viewers a little bit about how Midnight Rambler began in 2006 and yeah, just a little bit about how it started after. I know it was after the ending of the Blue Dog, which you know.
Yeah. So I was in a band called Blue Dog with the two guys actually I spoke of earlier, Alan Bedford and Barney Watson, two amazing musicians, and we played all around the sort of London circuit and done a few festivals, and we were doing quite well. We were getting somewhere. And then Barney left for an amazing opportunity to be a guitar tech for Bill Wyman, who's used to be a Rolling Stone, but now has his own band and his own career, and has been doing very well. And ever since that, Barney's just gone from strength to strength in the guitar tech world. And he's a bit of a celebrity himself now in the teching world. He's worked for everyone from the Rolling Stones to the Killers to the who's the band at the moment, Mumford and Sons. He's on tour with them. So, but he's very humble about it, and to meet him, he's very soft-spoken. But anyway, so after that, I was tempted to just get into another band or do something differently. But in the end, I just grabbed my acoustic guitar and just started thinking, okay, let's do something a little bit different. So I got a thing called a loop sampler pedal, which basically you play into and then it repeats over and over again, so you can build up these walls of sound or these backing tracks to yourself and play over them. So that's I was doing that for a few years around Reading and London, and out of that came songs that were a bit more sort of electronic in flavor. They had, instead of a band, there would be sort of synthesizers and beats and strings behind them. And that's really where things like Shockwave came from. And Shockwave won a little award, the BT DMAs in, I think, 2007. And that gave me sort of the push to think, oh, actually, I can write something. Okay. So then I started writing a little bit more, wanting to do more gigs, and then I kind of got frustrated with the format of being on my own. It's difficult when you write all these layers and you think, once people have seen you do this wall of sound trick a few times, I think there's a danger of it becoming a gimmick, you're that looping guy,
Oh yeah.
There's only so much you can loop authentically that is still interesting and still immediate, and then if you've written a song that goes verse chorus bridge out, then you're going to hear the same things again and again, and just to get to that point I probably have to loop quite a few things. So I didn't want people to be bored of it. I was starting to get bored of it, so I started playing with musicians again, and that's where I got a bass player, Zaza. That's what we call him for short, but his name's Hohl Szabolcs. He's from Hungary, and then we had our drummer Rob McGregor, and then we were a trio. That's when we started gigging as a trio, and we started playing all around the place. So Reading, London, Oxford, doing some festivals here and there, and the idea of putting the songs that had grown out of the looping tapestry into a much sort of blues rock kind of presentation. I don't think we ever really thought about how they would, why we were doing it that way. It just was that way. We plugged in, and I started singing the songs. We started playing them, and they got kind of heavier and heavier in a way. We ended up with this kind of heavyish rock blues sound, and that's what we put down on the album. But there's, I suppose, still quite a few little electronic bits in there, which kind of honors their sort of genesis in a way. So every now and then you'll hear some strings or piano or these little beats coming in and out, especially with the introductions to the songs, or the little sections in the middle where it's sort of gone a little bit electronic here and there.
Right. Well, you've got Chris Mason, right?
Yeah, so until recently, Rob was our drummer, and he still is our drummer in one respect. I think he's still part of the Rambler family, and always will be. But he's ridiculously busy with so many great projects on the go. He's kind of the boy that can't say no. So he kind of, yeah, we were running into rehearsal times at the beginning of this year, where we were having to just push forward, and I'd played with Chris in other bands, and so it just organically happened that way. It wasn't ever a case of like seeking out another drummer. It was just like, okay, so Rob can't play today, so we'll play with Chris today. And then that kind of happened over a few months, and then a few months went by, and we were down the road by a few months. So by that time, it's hard to come back. You know, if you start doing something for a few months, you're now doing that, you know, rather than reintegrate back again to our old drummer. We were at a place now where we were rehearsed, ready to go, thinking, you know, right, let's just keep going.
Right. Well, you mentioned that kind of quickly though, but that was a pretty big moment when Shockwave won that BT Digital Music Award. Wasn't that pretty? That was pretty exciting.
It was exciting. It was very exciting. I guess it. You know, I've never been able to take compliments well. It's one of those things. I just when
and
someone
that's an
says they
award.
really.
That's every year in London, was that right? Or
Yeah, they do. Well, it's London and Manchester, but I mean they run the competition. It's UK wide. You don't have to be any one place, but
okay.
they do the I guess the final event, or the celebration of it is. I don't know if they're still running the competition anymore. I haven't heard about it for a few years now, so I don't know if in the last few years they're still doing it. But that's only because the music business is changing so fast these days that, you know, that something else might have sprung up in its place. But yeah, they did it for many years, and but our I guess prize was, for me, it was playing in Manchester city centre. Right in the town centre, they built a big, huge open air stage, and it was, you know, basically a lovely day, so that we could, you know, literally sing to the town. So it was a completely free concert. So people were just camped out in the town centre, just watching this all unfold, and that was pretty good fun. And then there was a celebration of it later on at a venue called the Camden Roundhouse, which is a beautiful venue. I really like it inside there. It's one of those places where you can, no matter where you are, you can see the band. So right. I love that. I love that type of venue. And yeah, we got the old red carpet treatment that night, and yeah, but it was pretty special.
That was great. I think I did read the last one was either 2011 or 2012, maybe. I think that they did that. But I also read that your most proud moment was your drumming in the band Yellow Snow on a TV episode of Not Going Out by Lee Mack.
Yeah, I mean, that's just me being a bit silly, because it's probably not my most proud moment, but I do get a kick out of it. I do get a kick out of it, but, you know, I mean, I can't say it's my proudest moment. Only it's a good fun moment.
Well, you said that in your bio.
I know. But, I mean, that's only because it gives people a laugh, and I like giving people a laugh. You know. Honestly, we're on stage. Well, I'm on stage for like on TV for like a millisecond. If you blink, you will miss it. But no, that was a really fun day of just essentially being an extra that you see on screen for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
An old school friend, Neil Webster, writes for TV programs and writes for Lee Mack for that TV program. He's a very good writer. A very funny guy, ridiculously funny guy. And the opportunity just came up one day, and he needed a stand-in for a drummer part, and I was like, "Yep, I'll do it. Of course, I'll do it."
Well, I like your sense of humor. So.
Well, if you ever get to if you did want to watch it, essentially it's just a band on stage, and you know that song, "I can't live if living is without you."
Yeah.
That one. Imagine someone singing it like, "I can't live." like the death throes of Eric Cartman from South Park or something like that. But I'm not singing it. I'm not the one singing it. But essentially, that the crowd are going, "Ooh." We get shoved off, and then the hero of the show comes on.
Right. But now you're endorsed now by Dovetail Strings, and they're all about building up the music industry, and it sounds like they build bands up from the ground up, building up bands. How did you team up with them or get this endorsement?
Well, I saw that they were endorsing other bands, really, because I was looking for strings at the time, and I was looking for sticks. And I'm generally on the lookout for endorsements or a leg up from, anyone that's kind of able to help. Because I mean, when you're in a band, you kind of keep half an ear open, an eye open for opportunities, for your next show, or something that you can leverage in a way. But I mean, in an authentic way. I mean, there are lots of things I don't go after, but if I think this is an authentic opportunity, then I'll get in touch with someone and go, "Hi, is there something we can work on together?" I think if it's not two-way, then you're not really playing ball. So I saw that they would promote bands, and in return they wanted you to help promote them, which I think is a fair trade. I think as long as you authentically can support something. I wouldn't want to jump on and be, I don't know, Mr. Frozen Noodles if I hated the frozen noodles or something like that.
Right. But now you also you were asked to tech for Razorlight. I think that was by 2010, right?
Yeah. I did it for a little while. I didn't do it for very long. It was only a few shows, but it was very interesting, very interesting. So you come into, I guess, the bigger leagues of how bands practice, where they get to essentially spend every day practicing or writing or doing kind of what they want on their own production. So there's I was invited up to London to go to the rehearsal studios, and it was quite a trip, really, because you walk into the studios and it's not just Razorlight. Razorlight are just in one room. I remember down the hall there was at one point the Prodigy, which are an amazing live electronic band, and loads of other bands coming and going. We saw Bon Jovi in one area, and then there was like a girl dance troupe called Girls. I think it was Girls Aloud or the Saturdays or something. I don't know if they're big in the States, but they're pretty big in the UK. And so you kind of, your head's turning this way and that way, thinking, "Oh my God, look at them! Oh man, there's another band." And then, but you've got to also be super cool. Like, yeah, I'm used to this. I've done this all the time.
Right.
So yeah, there's a little bit of showmanship going into it. So Yeah, it was great. I mean, they're really nice. Well, they were nice to me anyway. The band were super nice to me, and everyone that was working there were really kind. And yeah, they I think they could tell I wasn't a seasoned pro really, but we still made it work. And I went on a few mini tours to places like the Isle of Man and Paris. The Paris show was really good. Really enjoyed that. So you get to see a kind of a bit of road and tour life that these bands take for granted and go on all the time. So, you know, checking into hotels and, you know, getting onto the flights, and, you know, it's kind of their daily routine. But I was getting a kick out of it, thinking, yeah, we're on the road.
Yeah. Well, I know I wanted to ask you though about, I know because we're gonna have to wrap it up soon, but I wanted to ask you, in 2014, I know you launched your album Tales from the Nightshift, and it sounds like it was a bit of a rocky time, because I know your mom was battling cancer, but then you finally, Bobby Bloomfield kind of came in and rescued as far as getting it finally mixed, for helping you produce that and getting it mixed. And I know he's a big deal. His music's been heard at the Oscars, but he did the final mix of your album. That was just a year ago, right?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I suppose, yeah.
Tales from
I'm just trying to remember how it all eventually came to. Well, I mean, I suppose I originally spoke to him a year ago, but we were working with another mixing engineer at the time, and but he kept on just giving us excuses, and we weren't able to really get anywhere or get it finished. And then my mum passed away in early 2014, and that threw everything up in the air as well, because I mean, at the time I was devastated then. I'm still you know, feeling it now. I don't think you ever get over it. It's just part of you. You can't deal with it in waves, and you know, it's just it changes your life. Well, it changed my life anyway.
It does.
So I mean, it certainly became less important to work on it then. But then I wanted it to work. You know, I felt we'd worked too hard on it to not do it, not do it right. So I got talking to Bobby, and he's such a great guy to work with and talk to, and he was really enthusiastic about the album. So we got it done. He's as soon as I started hearing the early mixes that he was doing, I was like, oh yes, 1,000 times yes. I don't think we recorded the album particularly in the best way we could have, because we ended up recording it in 2 or 3 different places, and then I kept on wanting to take the arrangement apart and put it back together, which is, it needed doing. It wasn't quite cooked, so we needed a bit more simmering. But after all that, I think it needed quite a bit of work to get it to a polished state, which I don't think anything's ever as perfect as you want it to be. I think you just get it to a place where you think, I can live with that, and you move on. You know, I'm hoping for the next album will be even better, because we'll have learned a lot on how to record. And we know, I know that Bobby's, you know, said he'd happily work with us again. So that gave me a big boost as well, actually. That in a way, that was just as much of a boost as winning any award or scoring a great gig, or, you know, something like that, because of knowing the people that he worked with, and he was, you know, thinking, you know, I'll work with you, it's good. I was like, wow, thanks. That's a vote of confidence, a shot in the arm. Appreciate it.
That is absolutely fantastic that Bobby it will work with you again. I think that's very promising for you. That's that's huge. So, and I know that was a very hard time in your life, losing your mom, and my heart does go out to you for that, because that does take that's still very new for you, Mike. It's only been a year, so I know how hard that is. And I've read enough about you to know that you are very, very close with your family. So,
very much so.
Yeah, you're very much a family guy, but you've got a wonderful girl who obviously likes your music from what I read, so that's good.
Oh yes, yes. Sophie keeps me entertained daily, and she's amazing. She's definitely a big light of my life. So that's, in a way, I suppose life has its ups and downs, and she's definitely helped me cope with everything, really. There's nothing like having that in your life to put things in perspective. So yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I know before we wrap it up, I know music has always been a part of your life, and I'm actually going to quote you. You said, "I never thought about not being expressive or giving it up. It's just part of my life. I always played music in some form: drums, piano, guitars, electronica, singing, and you said you'd like to learn the harmonica and accordion too. So what does the future look like for you and the Midnight Rambler?"
I think the immediate future looks like us getting our videos finished. So we'll have more going out on YouTube, and I hope that reflects our level of humor, because we are quite fun. Well, I think we're at least trying to be funny. I don't know if we are funny. I think if you think you're funny, you'll probably end up failing. But I guess we're kind of slapstick funny, I guess. But so that's on the go. And then the next album is being thought about and talked about, and so I think videos, the next album, more shows. We're talking to some friends in Belgium, Germany, and Hungary to put together a little European tour. That's probably looking like next year, because it keeps growing, and we want to try and give it its due diligence to make sure it's going to work for everyone involved. So yeah, musically, who knows? I think it won't be miles away from where we are right now, but I think there'll be just a few more surprises, I suppose. Musically, we'll probably try and incorporate a lot of everything still, because I think we don't really adhere to just being straight blues or straight funk or rock or electronic or anything. I suppose the lack of a central theme is the theme.
Yeah. Well, you said you're the Southern Fried Chicken. What was it? The alternative rock band.
Well, I think there's definitely elements of alternative rock. And I don't like the phrase alternative rock. I think it's just rock music. But
yeah,
I put the alternative in there only because the style of the music that we've come to play, I suppose, has been influenced by people like the Chili Peppers, Incubus. But I think there's a lot of blues in there as well, and almost I'd say probably pop music as well.
Yeah.
There's bits of the 80s in there. There's bits of I guess almost like ballad-like music, but they might not last for more than a song or just a section of a song. There's bits of definitely sort of jazzy blues in there from time to time. So yeah, I think that's why I put the alternative rock in there, only because I didn't want to say we're an out-and-out rock band for people to think, oh yeah, Bon Jovi.
Yeah, right.
I don't think we kind of champion that vibe. And the Southern Fried bit, I suppose I'm a big fan of the blues, and I like that sort of the vibe of a bluesy rock show, and that's definitely the sort of Southern vibe of the blues. Definitely has a lot more raw, and definitely a bit more of a raw feel to it. And sometimes I think we come across a bit like that. Right. So it may not be a traditional Southern blues, but when we play, there's also definitely a bluesy feel to it. I think it has that same sort of aesthetic.
Exactly. Well, I like where you're going with it, and I love the humor, and so I think you're branding yourself, and it's fun. I like where you're going with it. I really do, and so I look forward to seeing those trilogies of videos coming up. So that's going to be fun. Who knows? Maybe you should shoot one in New York, and maybe Sophia will be in one of your videos. You know.
I'd love to do that. I'd love to come over to the States and play. That would be amazing. We'd definitely shoot some video while we're over here.
Yeah, that would be great. Well, I want to thank you again a million times, Mike, for being here today and taking the time for me to help celebrate you and your band, because you know, I just think that your passion for music is strong, and I know you've had to go a lot of obstacles with losing your mom there, right when you're getting that album out and everything. I wish you all the success and healing for the loss of your mom, and fun in the future with all your fun stuff you're getting ready to do, because that's exciting. And let me know, keep me updated as well, because I know you're going to have fun on your journey. I can tell that you already are. So you just seem like that kind of guy. So I want to thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you, Tamarah. I've had a fantastic time. It's been really good talking to you. Really enjoyed it, and we'll definitely keep in touch.
Yes, we definitely will, and I'll have a replay of this in my blog as well. I want to thank the viewers also for being here, whether you're seeing it live or the replay. You can also learn more about the Midnight Rambler they have a website. It's the midnightrambler.co.uk. And I had a board and I don't see it now. And you can also see the replay of this in the at my blog, which is tamarahscloset.com. And you can check out the other live interviews there as well. And the replay of this one will be there also. So also, so make sure you check that out. I think I do have, let's see. I did want to make sure I got that in there so they could see your website. Is that showing up? The Midnight Rambler. So, and also make sure you join me next week as I interview actually a very different talented man. He's going to be here next week, next Saturday, Dr. Stephen B. Tattern, one of the top neurosurgeons in the country, and chairman of the Gamma Knife at Wake Forest Baptist Health. He's also my neurosurgeon, so that's how I met him. So tune in next week and stay tuned to Tamarah's Closet. Thanks again, and enjoy your journey and your success. Just keep on rocking it.
Thanks, Tamarah. That's brilliant.